you have to kill it.
Hit on you. What do you? No, I'm not hitting on you. You know what I mean? I'm married.
Maybe I shouldn't. I don't want to expose myself too much by filling out the form. And I threw your card that I got from a priest in the trash.
So you took the card, chucked it in the trash, and the Holy Spirit decided that you need to go dumpster diving. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just making sure.
Welcome to the Exposing Catholics show, where we expose the lives, stories, and testimonies of Catholics. Our guest today is Steve Pokorny. Welcome on, Steve.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Awesome. Great to have you here. And I'm here. I'm on your podcast. And there's someone way more pretty than both of us here also.
Absolutely. So if we could start out with just a quick overview of who you are and freedom coaching so that the audience knows what's going on and it makes sense for the overall story as we get into the deeper stuff.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm Steve Pokorny. I'm the founder of Freedom Coaching. It's one-to-one mentoring for both men and women to break the attraction to unchaste images, unchaste behavior, through a transformation of mind, heart, and vision. And all that came about as I was hooked on pornography for over 12 years. I thought I was going to be that way for the rest of my life. Got other plans, and there was a great deep healing that happened. And I've since been able to take this great grace that's been given and to be able to share it with countless men and women as well. And we're just getting warmed up.
Awesome. And I could vouch for the absolute incredible program that Freedom Coaching is, because I went through it a couple years ago, a couple years ago. And, you called me up, and which I saw was a 216 number. So that's a Cleveland number. And I was like, I guess I got to answer this thing. And it turned out it was you. And the one thing that you said that just got me hooked on actually joining the program was you have to kill it. And those words, you have to kill it, really struck me and impacted me, because I was going back and forth, should I join this thing? Should I not? I went to the website multiple times. Then I got to the form and I was like, maybe I shouldn't. I don't want to expose myself too much by filling out the form. And I threw your card that I got from a priest in the trash. And then eventually, I don't know, I just dug it out and was like, let's just go all in on this. And then here we are a couple of years later and totally free and transformed.
Lord, and you took the card, chucked it in the trash, and the Holy Spirit decided that you need to go dumpster diving. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Just making sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so can we dive into your story a little bit?
Into the dumpster. Let's go.
Let's go. What'd your life look like as a child growing up?
Sure. Great question. So, I I guess most people, I had a father, mother, brother. I didn't have a dog. I have two dogs now. The one's really dumb, and the other one eats all the other one's food and plastic. So life is good. So my father, his background was military, coming from a line of military people. Ironically, I never joined the military for whatever reason. It never occurred to me. But my grandfather was in the military in World War II. My father was in Vietnam. And for whatever reasons, Vietnam was very hard on a lot of soldiers, and my dad was one of those. And my father, after leaving the military, I believe in 72 or 73, he would go on to law school. And but somewhere along the lines, it was programmed into my father, the idea of get rich quick. And I think there's a good there. Right. There's a desire for us as men, and we want to provide for our families. Mm-hmm. And then maybe there's also the fallenness there where we want to cut corners. And so my father thought it would be best if he bet our house in the stock market. And my mother said, no, my dad said, I'm going to do it anyway. So we forged her signature and the deal lost, he thought. And I'll come back to that point in a second. So it would be actually, well, I'll come there now. My found out years later, my mom checked the records because I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio. Checked the records by taking a trip to Columbus that the deal had never gone through. So everything I'm about to describe, my father allowed fear to control him, and it would have permanent results for our family. So when my father found out our family's going to lose everything, he's a veteran. He's thinking, I'm supposing that the best way to take care of our family would be by killing himself. So he went to the garage, he closed the garage door, turned on the car engine. Half an hour later, when my mom pulled him out from that situation, his short-term memory was destroyed because of carbon monoxide poisoning. So my situation in growing up as a youth was, shall we say, my childhood was cut short because my father, based on fear, selfishness, was taken away from me. And so my mom was forced into a situation of being a single mom. She was a teacher. And there were times in which I was alone, left alone at home. And I distinctly remember I was 11 or 12, and my mom was just late coming home, and I was petrified, right? And our parents, our father and our mother, are God to us, understood appropriately, right? They bring us into existence with the help of God, but they also provide for us. And if they don't do their job physically and emotionally and spiritually, then we die. Either we die physically or a part of us dies. And so, I grew up kind of within that on edge, insecure, looking for comfort, looking for some sort of security blanket. And that was kind of the environment from the time I was 5 and moving forward.
We've got something special for all our Catholic organizations. Now, before you skip past this part, it's not an ad. It's more like an incredible opportunity to take your digital presence to the next level. And I'm going to let you in on a little secret here. Something only for our podcast listeners. We, DM Productions, have a 2-day Catholic social media makeover course. It's an online course specifically made for Catholic organizations. It will take your social media to the next level. And we make it easier than ever with our step-by-step video walkthroughs, cheat sheets, customizable templates, and more. Catholic organizations, let's start creating the quality and results that secular businesses have, but with the depth and beauty of Catholicism. Oh, and did I mention the price? $700. But remember I said I was going to let you in on a little secret? Use code DMPodcast to get it completely free. No credit card required. Just pop that code in and you're all set. Head over to www.dm.productions/social media makeover or click the link in the description. Now back to the show. That is, I don't even know how to respond to something like that. I've heard your story a little bit before, and it's just impactful. Mm-hmm. You hear this thing happen to somebody, and you just can't really even imagine or put yourself into those shoes. And so, continuing your story, how does life look from there then? Like, how does porn tie into this, and then eventually becoming this program, Freedom Coaching?
Sure, great question. So I'll keep this succinct, and we can break it up into where we need to go here. So I grew up hating myself. I saw dark clouds above me. I should just kill myself, like father, like son. I was very uncomfortable with myself. I didn't feel like I fit in. Difficult. There's a desire, obviously, for the opposite sex and wanting that attention, but never really getting that. And somewhere along the line, right, it was communicated to me of wanting some physical contact, right? There was a longing for them, a yearning for them. My mom is as good as a single mom could do. There was a great ache and a hurt for fatherhood, and I yearned for that, Dom. So within this here, Around age 12, as I'm walking down the street, there is a torn up. A brown paper bag as I'm crossing the street from my section of houses to another section of houses, and it's inside is torn up images of hardcore pornography. It was like Satan had dropped this forbidden fruit right here. You should have some. And well, I did something that what the experience of most people when they find pornography is, this is for most guys, it's buried treasure. I have to hide it. And that certainly was my experience, right? And because there's something shameful about that. There's the experience of male and female that's being depicted in those activities. It's not what is God's plan for marriage, right? Something that's good, true, and beautiful that's been twisted. So I hid it, but then I couldn't keep a secret to myself. And so I blabbed about it to a classmate who also came from a broken experience of family. His father and mother were divorced. He said, I will give you $20. And as a sixth grader, $20, 1990, yes, it's not much now because of inflation, but that was a lot of money. So I became at 12 years old, a porn peddler. How do you like them apples? And so this there was be the next year, another classmate of mine. He was a year older than me, invited over to his house. We played micro machines and played Monopoly. It was also, he exposed me to hardcore pornography on video that his parents had in their bedroom. So another young man, his education was broken sexuality. And so along those lines, I'm seeing images, I'm seeing people doing things that I never thought were possible. The attractiveness of women there, but not displayed in a wholesome and healthy way. And as much as that attraction was there, the guilt, the shame, the self-hatred was growing. And it would be about 2 to 3 years later, this is when the internet would hit. Yes, folks, there was life before the internet, and there probably will be life after the internet. But right now we're in Internetville, and here we go. So again, especially with the chemicals going on, the dopamine, norepinephrine, oxytocin, all of those chemicals stirred up in the brain, I was hooked, didn't know how to say no, and was trapped. So pretty much middle of high school, getting into that. Along these times, I should also play in here, both my parents would pass away within a year and a half of each other to cancer. And I had to grow up very, very quickly. And this dearth of not having my parents there, of not knowing my identity, I got swept up into looking for love in all the wrong places and too many faces, as the old country music song says. And pornography was it, right? And I'd get to that, and erotic literature and all these things. I would move in with my aunt and uncle, and the people that I was surrounded with, they're not necessarily bad people, but they didn't know how to talk to me about this stuff. There was no catechesis that was coming out about what is human sexuality all about, right? All that I knew was human sexuality was something lustful. I didn't even know the terms of lust then, but it's something that's supposed to be hidden. It's something that a man and a woman do in private, and if anybody finds out about it, right, that's going to be you're going to get in big trouble, right? It's there's an old band, I'm forgetting the name of it, said I grew up in Lubbock, Texas, and I learned that that sex is something dirty, bad, and shameful. You only save it for the one you love. Isn't that sweet? And that was the message I got, right? Which is very, very tragic, because compared to what the glorious plan for human sexuality is, which is for love, for intimacy, that is supposed to point to him. Mm-hmm. I got into this, and it was a very much trapped there. So I don't know if you hear, why don't I pause, and because you gave me there's a lot to the story, but I don't know, any commentary there.
Sure. So was that a common theme for people to be kind of like passing around these porn images? Now, I know when I was in high school, it's different in the fact that there's nothing physical to hand anybody, because like they weren't handing around papers or images or anything printed out. But I know people would literally send each other just like text messages, Snapchats, whatever, whether it's of them, of other people, or just straight up from porn sites. So what did that culture kind of look like?
That is a great question. So to my knowledge, like I don't know too many. Maybe I was just naive or ignorant, right? I wasn't one of the cool kids here. I mean, that's why finding this was literally, I won the lottery from what I thought, but it was actually pure poison. So I think there was, especially in high school as we're growing up. I mean, there's I would be involved with a couple girls and didn't have sex before marriage, but was not chaste. Nobody's talking about this, right? There's no education about chastity. There's no education about the goodness of the male and female body. There certainly is no education about how do we see each other in truth that gives life. So I think that culture. This is and literally this is the energy to create new life, right? That's what it's directed towards in marriage, and to create life in that marriage, and then also open up to a family. And inverted though, it's poison, as we like to call in freedom coaching, as you know, the septic tank. And all I know is that's presented. That's all I have to drink, and I'm thirsty. I'm dehydrated here. And if I don't get a drink, I know instinctively I'm going to die. So it's better to drink from the septic tank than to die of dehydration. So this continues on, Dom, Cass, into high school. I do a 1 year of painful year of I went to Syracuse University for acting for one semester, where ironically I still had some morals here. I was confirmed when I was in 8th grade, and I think the Holy Spirit still held my heart there. I was praying, so I was actively doing this. I was actively going to confession and going to receive Jesus in the Eucharist frequently. So thank God I hadn't cut myself completely off of this, but I was living as two men, as the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Dr. Jekyll, Steve Pokorny, he's outgoing, he's funny or funny looking, he's talented in certain things, right? But then there's this hidden space that if I let anybody know this, they're going to reject me. And here we are talking about this on a podcast right now, right? But when I went to college, I remember distinctly at Syracuse University, a guy who I was learning to play guitar from, he let me look at some lyrics on his computer, and this is 1997. Okay, it was like the Napster porn, basically. He had all these images on his laptop. I'm surprised his laptop didn't work, or it did work with all the amount there. And I'm just thinking, wow, I'm not alone here. But it wasn't something we talked about. It wasn't something we brought on. This guy was not religious at all. So within this here, right, I leave there. I actually go to seminary for 4 years, and it was very much present there in seminary. We had this is the late 90s, early 2000s, and the sexual and human formation was very lacking. And whether that was intentional or unintentional, I'll let God be the judge of that one. But we did have one of the guys, his name is Joe. We were in the undergrad seminary. He put together for Lent a little poster board, and put all the guys in the seminary on there. And for every day you didn't masturbate, you got a gold star. And I think I lied my way through it. But I don't think anybody made it through. Right. So these are future priests, and I don't want to be too harsh, but we do know in freedom coaching, we work with seminarians, we work with priests, and any priests or seminarians who might be listening to this is an issue. Come, let's have a conversation. Right. This stuff doesn't just go away, and it will directly impact your fatherhood. Because the degree that you are sexually integrated is the degree that you are going to be life-giving, and the degree that you're not, it's going to steal away from that ministry. It's critically important that we are just authentic and real about this issue. So I went on from that. I did 4 years of seminary, discerned out, did a year of very painful year of high school theology. And in the midst of that, in the early part of that year, I was given a tape by one Christopher West, not from him, but somebody gave me his recording. And it shocked me. And my jaw hit the floor, and he's talking about God's plan for human sexuality, not from condemnation, but as a calling to receive my greatness, and calling to live out my life as gift. And what is this? Now he's talking about it, that this is a reality. Now, what do I do with this? How do I do this? I don't know, because I'm living again as two men, right? I have a very public facing persona. I'm a good guy. I'm learning to do some speaking. but there's this stuff that's just eating me up. And it wouldn't be until I got to Franciscan University in Steubenville, Ohio, kind of near your stomping grounds, Dom and Cass. And how far from Steubenville are you?
About 3 hours, I think.
Okay. Yeah, there you go. Again, so was there doing graduate work, and then I found that it was one festival of praise where about 2,000 people were there, and there was a word from Scripture that came up that said, "Behold, I'm doing something new. Do you not perceive it?" From Isaiah 43:19. And God, and these streams of living water will begin to flow. And I started giving God a crack. I started to trust Him. Started to let Him into these little places, these places if anybody knew, I'd be rejected, just like my past. But He wasn't there to reject me. And He started doing something new in my life. I started going to daily mass, receiving the body, blood, soul, and divinity of Christ, of God, poured out, liquefied for me, liquid love, so that I can be fed and satiate my deep, deep thirst for love. And it would be 2 weeks later that I was led after Mass. I'm praying, I'm receiving, I'm grateful. And then it hit me. Boom, 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 boom. These chains hit the floor. This desire to want to lust was transformed into the desire to want to serve others. And it's because I heard for the first time ever that you, Stephen, are my well-beloved son, in whom I'm well pleased. Me? You're pleased with me after all my running, after all of my hiding, do you know what I've done? I've used women and I've thrown them away like trash. He said, I know, but I forgive you and I'm calling you to embrace my love. Come here. Let me hold you. And as a son, I just wept because I was received. And what I'd been deathly afraid to expose, as I open that up, that's the paradox, Dom and Cass. This is the paradox. The more we get vulnerable with people who are earning our trust, the more we find ourselves we are received. And that's how the wound begins to get addressed and healed. And so I experienced the first time a dramatic desire to want to serve, not lust, after my sisters. And that would last for 4 months. Congratulations, right? And there wasn't Covenant Eyes, there wasn't no web filtering software and all this stuff. But sexuality is very powerful, right? Unless it's properly directed, unless it's properly formed, the septic tank is very loud and very attractive, right? But the sad fact and the reality is, no matter how much you dress it up with celebrities or anything of the pornified culture, which is in our movies, our magazines, our television shows, the stuff online, we can get pulled back into there if we haven't had this transformation of mind, heart, and vision. So I didn't have those. And so I sank very hard back into it. And it would be a series of years trying to figure out, try to work through this stuff. And it would come along 3 elements that were really needed. One was called intensive trauma therapy, where that was secondary. First one was called theophostic prayer, because I was basically bleeding out emotionally. I didn't know what to do. God, and the emotional mistakes or the relational mistakes I would make with dating, with various other men and just the trying to establish brotherhood. I was not comfortable in my own skin. So I was going through theophostic prayer. The emotions are like smoke that leads to a fire. There was a lot of healing that happens there. The problem with theophostic is, and again, I'm not shooting it all the way down because it's certainly out of place in my life. I had to kind of be re-traumatized, and that wasn't very fun. So I don't recommend necessarily doing that. It is effective, but there was a better way for me. Second is called intensive trauma therapy, where through the process of writing and drawing, there was a bunch of healing that happened through that process. And we processed 21 of 40 traumas in 1 week, and or 21 of 35 traumas in 1 week, 8 hours a day in Steubenville. Dr. Margaret Vasquez, who is a total sweetheart, and she's back doing that. If anybody needs that kind of work, please look her up. Healing Hearts Ministry, I think that's the name of it. I may have that wrong. And then Dom, I'll try to get that for your show notes. And anyway, so on day 3, finally dealt with my pornography, and it was like scales fell from my eyes. Oh my gosh. And then it would be about 6 months later, I came to discover the church's beautiful vision of the naked human body through art, through discovering what is true beauty, right? Because if you want to break a habit, heal a compulsion, you got to put something in its place. Because the education we're being given, Dom and Cass, is we're being given the idea that that the naked human body, as God has created it, is just bad porn. And we're being lied to, we're being robbed, and so many of our children are being lied and robbed on this. So what happened was, I can say, I stand before you as a man who, I'm sitting today. I'd rather die than lust. Lust is not, lust, to quote C.S. Lewis, lust is a weak, whispering thing compared to the desire that will arise when lust has been coped with, right? No, killed. Mm-hmm. And there's a transformation that will happen there. So from this perspective, long story short, and then please ask any other questions from there. I started teaching in the Archdiocese of Marriage and Family Life. We did a lot of marriage prep. I started giving my testimony, and guys would start coming up to me like, I've got this issue, what do I do? And I'm like, well, I can meet with you. And this is kind of how most things come to be. Necessity is the mother of invention. And so pretty soon I'm walking guys through this. I'm creating PowerPoint or creating keynotes and PowerPoints. And then I come to realize that, oh my gosh, maybe this is duplicable. Maybe this is going to be applied across the board. So I was a lone wolf since 2011 doing this. I worked with both men and a smaller amount of women. And then 2019, our first other coach comes on board. More coaches come on board. And there are 6 other coaches now working in 4 languages worldwide. And we're just getting warmed up. We're hiring right now. We now have a foundation to help with scholarships for people if they absolutely need it. But it's been a wild ride. And actually, I'll just tell Don, this is very recent. We're recording this 2 days after the New Year. Just found out on New Year's Eve, one of my clients, another client from another coach, and another client from another coach got betrothed. One got betrothed, 2 got engaged. Okay, and then a week prior, I got pictures of a baby that's 3 months old from a client that had been really messed up from pornography. And now he's married, and their first beautiful child. And so these are the generational impacts that we're seeing just by our yes. And it's not because of us so much. It's about grace working in and through us. We got to do our work, obviously. And it's beautiful. And you guys are a testament. I mean, I'm grateful. And if you have not heard your story, Dom and Cass, I'm sure you'll say it on the podcast, but over on ours, the Redeemed Vision podcast, amazing stuff. Anyway, I've talked a lot. I know I'm a guest. So anyway, take it away.
That just gets me emotional, just hearing that and how amazing it is and how it's helped people. And I know how much it's helped us. Mm-hmm. It's, crazy, because I think I heard a TikTok that was like, they were talking to specifically parents, and like the issues that you have, like they're just going to get passed on to your kids. Like you need to fight them now, because if you don't like tackle this, your kids are going to have to fight that battle. And like, I'm so glad that we did this now, so that when we have kids, they're not going to have to, like, obviously there's going to be problems and issues that come up, but this is something that was never talked about from my parents to me and from your parents to you. Like, we're not going to have that same issue with our kids, which just makes me so happy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I mean,
especially go ahead.
Well, I was going to say this. I mean, and Cash, you're absolutely right. And there's an old song, it's kind of a nursery rhyme. It says, "Be careful, little eyes, what you see. Be careful, little ears, what you hear." And these kids, again, you guys don't have kids yet, but like I do. I have an 11 and 13-year-old and one in heaven. And these kids they hear way better than we think, and they see way better than we think they can. And these are video cameras that are on 24/7. And they're constantly recording. And if the question is, what play are we playing for them? What show are we putting on for them? And not that we're not real, but don't miss the metaphor. Their life is we learn via story. And the question is, what story are we sharing with them? And if it's a pornified culture that they're getting, that's their story, and it's going to impact them for the negative. But sadly, most parents don't think twice about just plopping them down with a device and say, watch this, when those who are creating that media, they don't necessarily have your values. So it's something we got to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's not even only just with parents. I think there's just a negative connotation around saying porn or saying sex or just talking about it out loud. Because we gave a talk not too long ago, and our talk involved, it was mostly about dating and then marriage, but then it involved the porn thing because that's such a huge factor within dating and engagement and marriage. But people would come up to us afterwards and then they would say, absolutely love your guys' story and what you guys are talking about and what you're trying to do. But when they would say porn, they would go, and I love that you don't just beat around the bush, when you're talking about porn. And it's like this whisper, this little float that out there, like trying to test the waters type of thing, versus just saying it and like getting it out there. So I think that's huge. And then just breaking the stereotypes and the weirdness around talking about it, because it's a big enough problem that you shouldn't have to whisper or quietly talk about it. It should be something out there. And going along those lines, I want to go back to the two-faced thing and having one identity here and then one identity there.
Yeah.
A public identity and then one that's in the shadows, along with not wanting to go into the deep crevices and fix those problems and like bring them to the light and bring them to adoration, to Jesus, and to really dig deep. Can we talk about those first? The two-faced thing of how does somebody go about to start to, instead of being two-faced, to start to merge those and to get rid of the bad and just have one good?
Okay. That's a very simple question. So let's answer. No, I'm kidding. It's a big question. So let's dig into it. So there's two things I would say, Dom. It's a great question. This is a critically important question. There's two things that Jesus can always work with. Okay, and I start with the letter H. Here, I'm going to ask you. Yeah, here, I'll pick on you guys. What do you think they are?
Two things. H, I'd say help. Healing for sure.
Well, that'll come later. That's the after effects. But two things that we have, dispositions that we got to have.
Hope.
Well, hope will come after. You got hope and healing.
I'm jumping the gun.
Other two, you're stealing my punchline. Oh. So, humility and honesty. Humility is not cowering and not thinking that, oh, I'm too bad. No, it's acknowledging who you are on the side of God, right? When Mary says, bless all generations will call me blessed. It's not her saying, look at me, I'm so great. No, it's what God has done in me. I'm acknowledging this reality, right? Mm-hmm. So we are beloved sons and daughters, but we also are deeply, deeply wounded. And what gets us into most trouble is the opposite of humility, which is pride, right? And I can do this on my own self. I know what right is. I know what is best for me. I'm going to do this on my own self. And you can only live that way long enough till you get yourself into trouble. And reality, just like if I jump off the building and I think there's no gravity, well, reality is going to catch up very, very quickly, right? I'm not a bird and I cannot fly. So within this here, the way out of that space is going to be humility, acknowledging who you are on the side of God, and honesty. I'm not okay. You're not okay. Let's be not okay together, right? And I think that's where the church needs to go. If there's anything our evangelical brothers and sisters have to teach us, is they've created environments in many of their churches for the broken, right? In a lot of Catholic parishes, and I think this is why we lose a lot of Catholics, is because we're not being real about the wounds that are there. But as you stole my answer and my thunder here, Don, right? By having humility and honesty, it opens us up to healing and to hope, right? And those are the hope that my life can be better, hope unto eternity, that my life is not forfeit, that salvation is real, and the healing of body, soul, mind, heart, and vision. All these things can be healed in me, that I can get back to feeling comfortable in my own skin. And the issue of sexuality is not a non-issue. Everything we do is either male or female. And if we don't deal with these issues, the human race is finished, let alone the church, right? Because the foundation of the church is healthy men and women coming together to form units to open up to the next generation and to pass Catholic, authentic Catholic values onto the next generation, and to go into the darkness to save people, to fight against the darkness, fight against evil, but also reveal this light to others for people who are clueless and lost and want a way out, but no one's talking to them about this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's huge. And during Freedom Coaching, part of the program is to, I believe this part was called untaping. And so I brought my journal and wrote down a bunch of the past traumas and hurt and all those things, and wrote them down and brought them to adoration, which was one of the most powerful things throughout the whole program, to not only write them down, but to bring them in front of Jesus and to just be there and to be like, here it is. Like, here's all the stuff. I don't want to pray about it. I don't even want to talk about it, but I bring this to you so that we can open the door to then start healing those deep things.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say here, and again, going back to your question, just forgot. So the first step is honesty, but then the second step is open it up. Open up the gunk, open up the ugliness. I mean, you ever cry ugly? They really, really ugly. You ever had those cries?
So bad. It's so bad.
It's very cathartic. We shouldn't be doing it all the time, okay? It makes for a very ugly checkout at the supermarket. But like, there's moments in which we have to get to a place where we're broken, and I know it, and you know it, and I don't have to hide it, right? What that does, it can create a connectivity with somebody who's earning our trust. And so I would say, yes, we are engaged in the sacraments there. Yes, we're going in front of adoration. They're very important. But who in your circle? And I promise you there's at least one. And so I want to throw this out to everyone who's hearing this. There's got to be one where you can drop the BS, you can drop the mask, and get real. Right. And I think, again, your story, Dom and Cass, is astonishing to me of where each of you coming through your brokenness, able to get spiritually naked with each other, to see each other in truth, and from that creates the connection for great healing here. And I think that's the just bringing us into marriage real quick. I can't tell you how many guys who come to us. I'm dead. I'm dead. If my wife finds out, I'm gonna die, and she'd murder me, right? She's gonna divorce me. Is that possible? Yes, it is. But for a vast majority of wives, that's not their reaction.
Yeah, no.
What's the account? Cass, I'll hit on you. What do you? No, I'm not hitting on you. You know what I mean? I'm married, happily married. There. on your, so if that was like, let's say as a married woman, right, and your husband was having an issue, how would you want him to respond?
Well, I'm just gonna say, when he did tell me that this was something that he had struggled with and he's going through the Freedom Coaching program, I was really, really happy that he mentioned it, because, I wasn't like, I cannot believe you. Mm-hmm. I was very, very happy, because that was something that I was also struggling with. Mm-hmm. And so to just let it out in the open, and so that we can, work through it together and be accountability partners for each other. That was, it wasn't anger at all. And so moving forward from it, it was just a lot of trust building. And, if, say, we're married now, and if I were to find out that there would be porn, I guess, I don't exactly know how I would react, but...
Well, it's different, though, because we're out of it. So
Yeah.
if I were to go back,
To go back into it is-
really different. But if I was in it and you didn't know, and I was working towards getting out of it,
Okay.
then I feel like that's kind of what he's asking, is how would you respond? Like,
Okay.
so a husband is struggling with it and he's yearning to get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he brings it to his wife and mentions it. And then how would you?
Yeah, I would go about it thinking like, I'm really, really glad that you told me, and like, let's do whatever we can to like help. Like, I just want to help you. I want to get you into heaven, and I want to strengthen our marriage. And if it's something that's just going to tear us apart, like, we need to fix that together. That's how I would go about doing it. I wouldn't be like, get out, we're getting a divorce. That's not even coming up in my mind at all, as like in any situation. Yeah.
I think that's a fair assessment. I think obviously and I don't want to speak for any woman here. From what we've discovered in our years of working with clients is that when he actually opens the door up there, are there going to be some strong emotions from his wife? Yeah, there are. Right?
Yeah.
There are going to be some anger. Let's make it very clear. Pornography is cheating. Pornography is adultery. Let's make that very clear, right? Because it's not simply a physical action. It's what I've done with my heart, where I've given my heart. And I think that's why it's so painful for wives, right? But gentlemen, I'm speaking especially to gentlemen here, is your wife wants all of you. And trust me, she's smarter than you give her credit for, probably. And if what she wants is all of you, even the darkness, right? Because what that allows to happen is if we open that to the light, it allows for connectivity, allows for empathy, and that's how trust can be reborn here. Now, the question is, how are you going about getting healing and health, getting healthy here, a healthy sexuality, so you can love your wife, so you can love your children well? At Freedom Coaching, we do this very, very well, but maybe there's another option that works better for you. Great, right? But we're honored to receive you.
Yeah, I mean, I just can't imagine any, like you were saying, Steve, is that there's going to be lots of strong emotions. There's going to be strong emotions, period, whenever you're bringing something so heavy hitting as porn. There's going to be some sort of strong emotion there. But I feel like if you have a desire and you're bringing it to her and saying that you want to get out of it, you want to work to rid this evil from your life, then how exactly can she be mad? Maybe she gets upset and she's frustrated with the idea that it has been happening in the relationship. But then what does it look like from now on?
Yeah,
like,
wanting
what's the
to
future?
change, but you just can't,
Yeah, I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong. When you cast, and maybe you can, as the female representative of the human race here, the floor in a moment. Is, I mean, I think it comes down to the fact it's the fact of the lying is what is so damaging.
Yeah.
That you have, I mean, pornography use, compulsion there is not the same as alcoholism. I want that very, very clear. But it's if somebody's a closet drinker going on the weekends and then finding my credit card bill is much higher, why is this going on? And why are you going to all these bars and things like that? Or hiding it around here? And it's the same way if they're, prepaid phones or burner phones or computers, things like that. And then finding out about that later on. That's a violation of trust there. It happens. Same as somebody who has a problem with gambling. So the way forward here is to be on the honesty there. And that is, it's terrifying because if the thought is, if I open this up, I'm going to be abandoned. I'm going to be forsaken. That's a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people. And that was one of my wounds, the rejection wound, right? And something I had to work through. Wasn't married, didn't have this issue before getting into marriage, thank God. But this is a big deal. So I know any thought here also that besides maybe lying, is there something else that especially women would be concerned about there?
The thing that came into my mind was like, why couldn't you talk to me about it? Like, you talk to me about everything. Why couldn't you talk to me about this? And like, is there some sort of like barrier that we have to get through? Obviously, but just like, why did you feel like you couldn't tell me about this? Why couldn't you, trust me with this specific topic? Like, why this rather than anything else? I know, like, it's a really, really deep, wound, trauma that probably for most couples has been going on for, years, probably. But that's just something that came into my mind of, like, why couldn't you talk to me about it? That kind of.
I would add even along those lines. Sexuality is a great gift from God, right? But if we've been misusing that for a number of years, that has become part of our identity, right? You mentioned about the assignment of untaping, of getting into our true identity and sitting in that. That's critically important. And if I open this space up here, right, I don't know if I'm going to really know who I am, right? And especially if because pornography use is typically a very private use. And if I allow you in here, it's no longer private here, right? And you know how the formation that I've received, or malformation that I've received from here, that's very damaging, right? That comes in there, and I don't know what to do about it. And also, especially because it's changed the way in which I've seen you, because where many wives discover, I didn't know this conversation would go this way, so here we are. Why so many wives are hurt by this is because the comparison games comes there. This is where jealousy comes there. There already is, but the pornographic culture, the radical body image that women are struggling with, right? And we've gotten so far in the most recent years that now those who are objectively obese are we're trying to justify that is a healthy lifestyle of their body, and it's right. And we want to say, no, the person is good. Maybe the way in which they're living out their body right now, there's a problem there. And all of that is a response. The why they did that is a response to the pornified culture that has viewed women merely as objects, right? So, and now it's moved from a healthy view of the body or an objectification of the body, which is not healthy at all, to a demonization of the body. Get rid of it completely. And when you bring an unhealthy view of the body, either one of those ways, you're looking at the destruction of intimacy. And I think that's also one of the areas to pay attention to as addressing this issue.
And I think just the devil wants it in the shadows. He wants you to sulk in shame. He wants you to just keep it to yourself and just think like, oh, I just do this in my private life, and so that I can continue and continue and continue.
Yeah.
So what exactly is, now I know personally what's different about freedom coaching, because it's not even really changed the porn side of things, but also just my Catholic faith as a whole. So what exactly, as we're coming to an end here, is different with freedom coaching than the other programs that people might be looking at?
Sure, great question, Dom. So most of the answers out there, we would humbly say, are not really answers at all. Because they're the top 5 things that most people are told what to do about when they have initiated pornography. A, stop looking at it. Well, if you know anything about the chemicals involved here, that's a lovely idea. Good luck with that.
Yeah.
Right? It's too powerful. Second is get accountability software, get a web filtering on your devices. Well, if there's a will, there's a way. If you put your hope in technology, your faith in technology, technology will fail you. If I want to find a way around it, I will find a way. I'll buy a new phone. I'll buy a new computer. I'll go to the Apple store and I'll just look at porn there, right? Third is going to be accountability or spiritual direction. Very important, right? But if they don't know how to solve the problem, it's just good advice, or it's just advice. Fourth is engage the sacraments. As a Catholic, right, we need the sacraments. We need to go to the Eucharist. We need to go to confession. Don't stop doing those. But they become, because what's most of the advice when you go for confession, right? Pray in Our Father and 3 Hail Marys. Thank you. That's a good starting point, but it's not actually getting to the root. And so the last point is that of pray the Rosary. And the Rosary is very important because Our Lady will ultimately is one of the solutions on this thing, because she is the most beautiful woman ever. And gentlemen, if you don't have a living, breathing relationship with her, and I know, Cass, this has also been a part of your story, right? Of her motherly love, mothering that wound, that mother wound, that woman wound, that played a big part in your life. Praise God for that, right?
Yeah.
But if we're simply praying the rosary without connecting our life and allowing that grace to really animate in us, then it won't have the effect that it's supposed to be. So what is needed, especially, is those threefold there of true identity. Okay, so what we do, what sets us apart, we're going to teach you how to pray, but we're going to teach you how to pray in a way that is not rote memorization, that helping to come to really intimacy with Christ. We are, even before all that, we want to get into those wounds, and it's also one-to-one mentoring. We're not going to get you plugged into just an online system that you go as you go at your pace and you can't really talk to anyone. No, we're full on, and most likely, if you send a message into the site, I'm the one who's going to respond. Dom can attest to this, right? And so we want to work through those things, but we do want to get Jesus directly involved with the healing of any of those traumas that are going there. We have specific ways of doing this that's not therapy, and it's effective. And again, this is not to poo-poo any of the therapy or counseling services that are offered by others, but we do things differently at Freedom Coaching. Another element is that of identity. So we do a lot. So we pulled up the bad stuff. What do we fill that with? So we it's not just the information we're giving. So it's experiential, and we want you to learn who is your true identity, and how do you establish true intimacy with God, with oneself, and with others. So if you want to, again, change a habit, you got to put something better in its place. What the problem is, what most people do is they will they get rid of one demon, and then 7 more come in. Why? They haven't filled the space with the saints. They haven't invited good people into the world. So that would be another aspect of accountability, another aspect of letting other people in. What are the other brothers? Who are the other brothers? I'm talking to guys here that you can bring into your life that can walk with you on this, but also can talk about. Let's talk about sports and talk about hunting, or so talk about I don't know various things in music. Like pornography is again a weak whispering thing compared to the goodness of what life is, right? And then the last piece is learning how to see. Do you know what beauty is? Do you know what art is? Do you know how to see the beautiful patrons of the art in the Catholic Church, especially where the body has been exposed appropriately, right? And allow that to form your vision, right? These are elements, especially on the vision part, we haven't seen that talked about in other areas, right? Because a lot of the areas are focused, a lot of other programs are focused on mere techniques and mere strategies. That's a part of what we do. But we want to get to the root, bring a healing and magnifying those, so that when the real deal about the body is presented, when the counterfeits are inevitably presented via technology, what's the big deal? That's stupid. Why would I want that? I know what the real deal looks like, and it's way more exciting. And what's even more exciting than that, than just seeing the body, is actually having living, real relationships with others, which is the point of life, and then to pour out my life as gift.
Incredible. Steve, where can they find you at?
Praise the Lord. Thank you so much, Dom and Cass, for the opportunity to talk today. Freedom-coaching.net. That's where you can check out our work. The first video up there is Dom actually giving his little story on there, right on the front page of our website. Also, you can find out various on Instagram, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. Redeemed Vision is our handle. We're continuing to expand things on there. We've got a lot of various things. We do once a month a redeemed healing event online where we do prayer teams and we pray with people, and we see beautiful things happen from there. We see depression get knocked out in pretty much 20 to 30 minutes sometimes. That's not because of us. It's because of the Holy Spirit working through us. And then we also do various speaking and writing there. You can, and if you are unformed, if you have access to Formed, there's a show called Redeeming Our Vision. It's a 12-part series that's on there that'll give you a good run through of kind of how we're different, a lot of educational pieces, but none of that can replace the one-to-one working, because you're an individual person. You have your own story, and these things need to be worked through and healed, and we'd be honored to receive you and walk with you on this road to freedom.
Incredible. Yeah, their program is the best out there, and I can vouch for it 100%. It has changed my life. Like I said, not only in the porn aspect, but in everything else. Because, yeah, when you start to rid that of your life, you just want to become more and more and more closer to Jesus, and ultimately trying to become a saint and get into heaven. So thank you, Steve, for coming on the podcast. Everybody go check him out. Thank you.
An honor. Thank you so much, Dom and Cass. Blessings.